We need to see what comes after that. Because let's imagine, purely example, save £8,000 when I buy that 150k property. Brilliant. What happens if the replacement cost me £1,500 a year? After 5 and a bit years, I've paid that £8,000 back. But if I keep the property for 20 years, suddenly that calculation is completely different. Now, I'm not saying it's £1,500, is that proposed tax? It's not. I'm just deliberately using this simple example to make a point. The actual outcome depends totally on how the future system was designed, but that's exactly why the detail matters, because there's another question here too. Who actually ends up paying? If landlords suddenly have another significant annual cost, does the landlord simply accept lower return? Do some landlords sell up? Do investors decide certain areas no longer stack up? Or eventually, does some of that additional cost find its way into rent? Because landlords can only absorb so many additional costs before their behaviour starts to change, and that doesn't automatically mean rents just rise by exactly the amount of the tax. Markets don't work that neatly, but costs do influence investors' decisions, and that's something I think that gets missed quite a lot when we talk about taxing property. There's a completely different argument in favour of an annual tax. At the moment, two people owning similar properties can have very different tax experiences. Someone could have owned their house for 30 years, while their neighbour bought at almost the same price last month and paid thousands of pounds in stamp duty just for moving there. Is that fair? I'm not sure it is. Our council tax system is based on property valuations that are frankly ancient. So I totally understand why people are asking whether or not there's a better way of doing it, but for me the interesting bit isn't really whether stamp duty is good or bad, it's about the total cost of owning a property. Because changing the name of a tax doesn't make the cost go away. Changing when you collect the money, that can dramatically change the way people behave, particularly investors. I think you've got to look at the whole life of the investment. What does it cost me to buy? What does it cost me to finance? What does it cost me to improve it? What does it cost me to hold it? What income does it produce? And of course, what do I get back out? And that's how I look at property deals anyway, not just what's the purchase price, because the purchase price is just one number in a long list of numbers. So where have I landed on this whole thing? I don't know. I like the idea of reducing an enormous upfront cost. I think it could encourage people to buy. It could encourage transactions in the market and help people move. But from an investment perspective, having more of your capital available to actually improve the property rather than immediately handing it over as a transaction tax, that's got some obvious attractions. But the trade-off is a substantial annual tax for as long as you're in the property. I want to see them numbers before I decide whether the whole thing's an improvement. Because there's a very big difference between abolishing a tax and moving it. So I'd be interested to know what you think. Would you rather pay the tax up front when you buy, know it's all done, or would you rather dramatically reduce the cost of buying but pay an annual property or land tax instead, and actually maybe tell me why? Because I think the reasoning is more interesting than just voting for one or the other. So one last thing, I'm trying to make these videos useful, not just another person on the internet talking about property, because the internet's really short of those. So if you're finding these posts useful, perhaps just give the video a like or follow me, or maybe let me know where you're from and what you're looking to do. It all just gives me an indication that this content I'm producing is worth continuing with, and tells you which subjects are worth digging into in a bit more detail and which are the ones to leave. So, right, get on with this coffee and I'll see you on the next one.